Hello, everybody, and welcome to Dishing with Stephanie's Dish, the podcast where we talk to people in the food space. Sometimes it's cookbook authors, sometimes it's people that make things, sometimes it's chefs. And today I am talking to my friend Stephanie Meyer, who you all may know of as Fresh Tart Steph and as now Stephanie.Meyer.A. I always get it wrong.
It's
Stephanie,
Stephanie.A.Meyer, but yes,
got
yes.
it. And Stephanie has been in our friend group for a very long time and a friend with me for a long time. And Stephanie is always, I feel like, a trendsetter. Do you know that you're a trendsetter?
No, that's amazing. I don't think anyone's ever called me that before, but
Well,
that's really nice.
because here's what I think. Like, you're not in the trends like people would think of trends, but you are thinking about things before other people are thinking about them. Because I think you're super well read, you're very bright, you spend a lot of time thinking about science things.
Yeah,
So, you were the first person that I came across in the food space that was really thinking about blogging in a robust way.
sure. Wow. That was a long time ago.
It sure was, but that was what you were doing, and you were bringing bloggers together and creating community, which was amazing.
Very
Then
fun.
you were writing a cookbook about Twin Cities chefs, which also seems probably like a long time ago, but I just
Yeah,
picked it up the other day and the stories and the heartfelt feelings about the Twin Cities chef community was still there.
love it. Thank you.
Then you sort of started thinking about healthy eating and healthy food, and your green broth kind of blew up before anybody else was really talking about that.
Yeah,
And you've really gone full circle here into this food journey as many of my peers start to enter the midlife menopausal middle, trying to think about not only foods in terms of health, but also some of us have been packing the pounds on over the years.
sure.
And just really, like you wrote something the other day, and I follow you on Substack and I follow all your stuff, but you wrote something the other day that just like leapt off the page at me. And I sent it to a friend and I thought I have to podcast with her. And I'm going to just see if I can find it here because I'm going to read it because I think it will really resonate with food people, but also people that might be in the menopause space, which
Yes,
also you are on trend because when Oprah starts talking about something that you've been talking about for a long time,
right. I mean, it's very true. And honestly, in this sense, a lot of it's just sort of following what people ask me for. So maybe my clients are the trendsetters and I'm just answering their questions.
okay, so here is what you wrote as we'll say a nutritional coach. You
Yeah,
said, write down this solution and implement it today. Here's the basic per meal formula and adjust according to your weight and health goals and calorie needs. Are you ready? She said, write this down. 30 grams of protein plus 40 grams of carbs, 5 or more grams of fiber, plus 2 colors of non-starchy plants and 15 grams of healthy fat. Do that for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. A snack is half of that, but still the combo. And I
yeah,
was like blown away that nobody had ever just like spelled that out in a way that felt so clear to me. So, can you talk a little bit about your journey and how you got there and how you got to this specific metric and why it's
yeah.
working for people?
Oh, I love it. Well, I call that particular formula, I call it the satiety formula. That's how you pronounce that word, by the way. Like often people will just write back and say, oh my God, huge relief. Because I was saying satiety, I wasn't really sure how to say it, whatever. So anyway, it's satiety.
I've
It's a
always said satiety. So, again, you're way ahead
right?
of the
It's
curve.
satiating, right? Satiety. And so it is satiety. So that could be your little word nerd, for the day and the week. And it's a very powerful word. And I just am kind of hooked on it and I keep repeating it and I keep hoping that people get on board with me. But I call that the satiety formula because when I work with clients, I have been able to see that the thing that gets in people's way is that they're hungry. And, perimenopause, menopause makes you hungrier. And a lot of women notice it. They think it's because of, hormones. That's it. That, estrogen and progesterone directly affect your appetite. That's not really exactly, it's not that direct. However, it is true because as perimenopause sets in, we know what happens. Sleep disruption, nothing affects your appetite more than sleep. And you have a bad night of sleep, we know that the average person eats like 3 to 500 extra calories the next day without trying or knowing it. And so a lot of women come to me and say, I'm doing exactly what I did before. This is like this, mysterious 10-pound weight packed on. And and I think it's because of, estrogen. And then we dive in. I have them take a look at what they're eating. We talk about their appetite. And what I just, saw over and over and over again is, oh, women are just hungrier. So we need to get more knowledgeable about what makes you full and a little bit more purposeful about it. And then along came Ozempic and made it all kind of make sense because Ozempic works, or GLP-1 medications work because they decrease your appetite. And all of a sudden, people realized, oh, I was eating much bigger portions than I realized. Oh, I have a naturally bigger appetite than my sister. I didn't realize this is how she felt. I didn't realize what it feels like to not think about food all day. I didn't realize what it feels like to not like be hungry after dinner. And Oprah even said it. She's like, "Wait a minute. Is this what normal people feel?" And I have been beaten up my whole life for like, being overweight and having a bigger appetite, and it's just my biology. And so knowing that biology is happening, appetite is bigger, what can you do about it? Maybe a GLP-1 medication is an answer. Lots of people don't want to go that route right away. They would rather experiment with creating satiety, which is what GLP-1 medications do, creating satiety with food. Because we naturally have GLP-1, we naturally have other satiety hormones. We can eat very specific foods in combination to like elicit as much of that release of satiety hormone as possible. It's not as powerful as meds, but it's a good experiment. And a lot of people are like, okay. I have a lot of clients. I just met with one this morning who said, I'm too full. So let's adjust. I love it when I get people there. It's like, oh, now I'm too full. How do we fix that?
It
That's the
is
opposite.
funny because my first thought after reading your formula
Yeah.
was thinking about I see the plates of food you eat a lot on Instagram.
Yep.
So I was thinking about like, okay, thinking about what Stephanie's plates look like, and then thinking about like if I actually ate that amount of food 3 times a day,
Yeah.
I haven't eaten that much food since like the fifth grade.
Right.
It felt like, wow, would this be what that felt like? And I'm not sure. I'm always on the search. And, people probably think I have an eating disorder, and maybe I do, and I don't even know it. But I feel like a lot of women, we are conditioned and we think about food a lot.
All the
And
time. Absolutely.
when it's your business too, I'm always thinking about creating, and food is like my art. So
Definitely.
it's hard for me to separate the creation of food and wanting to express that way through
Yeah.
either actually making recipes or thinking about recipes or gardening or creating a beautiful table. Like I'm always thinking about that. And
Yes.
then the actual eating piece of it. And it gets kind of all mixed up, but some ways in a beautiful way, some ways in a way that feels onerous.
Yes.
It
Very well said.
and I just think about it all the time.
Yeah.
And I eat way less than I think about because if I ate all the time, like, but I know. Like, I have a friend right now who she has an eating disorder and has her whole life. And for the first time as a 55-year-old woman, she feels like she's really got a handle on it because she's back to, I hate to say it, but calorie counting. And she was afraid of calorie counting her whole life. But
Sure.
exactly like you said, she's like, I wasn't eating enough. I
Yep.
was eating one meal a day. I
Yep.
was eating all the wrong things. And now that I'm like more managing that eating throughout the day and eating more fruits and vegetables and just like not being so hung up on it. She's like, I feel so much better.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. You said a lot of great things there. I don't think you have an eating disorder. I mean, welcome to being a woman in the United States. It is just relentless. And then social media has probably made it worse. Although, frankly, it wasn't all that great, pre-social media. So I don't know. There's a lot of good info. I see a lot of better info. Maybe it's because of the way I curate my social media feed. But I feel like the messages are shifting and changing, and I think that's good. But you're right. I mean, it's insanity, and it's really difficult. Calories, matter. Like buried in that formula is, you know, carb or macros, the macronutrients of protein, carbs, and fat. They each have calories associated with them. So carbs have 4 calories per gram, protein has 4 calories per gram, fat has 9 calories per gram. And so when you build a meal around the satiety formula, there's calorie control kind of built into it. And so that meal, if you put together that exact formula of a meal, is going to come out to around 400 calories. And 400 calories per meal is a pretty good place for women to start. I mean, it's probably not enough from, and I say that in that particular essay. 400 calories per meal, if you only ate 3 meals a day, would obviously be 1,200 calories. A lot of women historically have been aiming for 1,200 calories a day, and it's not enough, right? It backfires because you end up so hungry that you do overeat in the evening in invisible ways. It's not enough nutrients to, build muscle, and muscle is really how you keep your metabolism ticking along, especially as we age. So 1,200 calories isn't it. That's the calorie count for like my 3-year-old niece. That's how many calories a day she should be eating. So not a grown woman, unless of course you're, I don't know, Suze Ellickson. You're like 4'10" and you're, an older age. Like she doesn't need a ton of calories, and I'm quite sure she probably doesn't eat a ton of food because she's just like an adorable tiny little thing. I'm 6 feet tall and I'm super active, and 1,200 calories a day would be insane. And lots of bad things start to happen if you do that. Your hair falls out, you start to lose muscle, you start to lose bone, you start to have low energy. It's depressing. You compromise your gut health. Like, we're not going there. Nuance is very hard to portray on social media and, anywhere. The nuance is that yes, 1,200 is too low, but most Americans are actually over consuming calories. And our food environment is high calorie, low satiety. We know that. That's what restaurants tend to sell. It's what snack foods are. It's what, most of our food environment, kind of the ultra processed food stuff. And so once you know that, you can start to push up against it. And most women, I find this, really feel like they are going to gain weight if they're full, which is a little bit getting at what you said. Like, you look at that plate of food that I put on Instagram, most of those plates of food are like between 300 and 400 calories. Like, they're not even that many calories, but I'm really good at getting a lot of food packed into 400 calories so that you can experience satiety, but also the nutrient density part of it. It's a lot of color, a lot of veggies, a lot of fiber, the right amount of protein, that kind of thing. Um, and I think that's it's a worth thinking about. Wow, I have been programmed to feel healthy when I'm hungry, and to feel like I'm doing things right if I'm hungry. And that if I'm satisfied and full, then I'm going to gain weight. That's a very real fear. And it's not just for people who have an eating disorder. I would say it's pretty typical for all American women. So you
And
hit on it.
we're always trying to balance not only for our health for ourselves, but also our partners, our children. A lot of women
Absolutely.
are the caregivers, and we're putting this food out there.
Yep.
And wanting to also, like, I don't want, just speaking for myself, I don't want food to be like depressing, not fun. Like, also creating an environment where food can be celebration and all those things. how like okay, so I know you're coaching all these women and they're having all this success because they're feeling more full, they're eating more well balanced, they're following your formula. But then it feels like real life enters in sometimes, and
Yes.
we have that third glass of wine, or we're
Yep.
going out to dinner on Friday and Saturday night. My challenge, like, I could never calorie count because if I go to dinner at a good place on a Friday night, the calories in that food, I know I can't even keep track of because they put so much butter in it, or
Right.
it's just you don't know how restaurant food is made and why it tastes so good, and all those things you fear are true.
Yes, it's so true. I have that conversation actually with my clients because we strategize around, okay, there's a couple of ways you can approach it. One, if you are going out for dinner too often, um, obviously it's a little bit of a job hazard for someone like you and our friend group. But if you're eating out too often, then you're going to have to make some decisions about the food that you order in restaurants that are probably more restrictive than what I would tell someone if they were going out for dinner every other week, right? Like if you're going out for dinner once every couple of weeks and you really are hungry and you want to go to Bar La Grassa and get pasta, then go do that. Enjoy it. It's fine. If you are made this other decision, like you're going to eat out a lot and you have health goals that you want to meet, then you're going to have to strategize a little bit more thoroughly about how you approach eating in restaurants because everything you said is just true. Like their job is to coax as much fat and sodium into a dish so that you crave it and you want to come back for it. Like they're
Yeah.
in the business of selling food, which is fine. But when you know that, then you can kind of plan around it. So one way that we strategize, and again, it comes down to very individual, response, which is why I don't really do a lot of group coaching. I really do one-on-one coaching because everybody's so different, like the group stuff. Teaching a course has been amazing and gives a good overview, but this is where we kind of get into this nitty-gritty and make a decision. Okay, I am going out for dinner. The old way is to try to save up the calories and not eat much during the day, and then try to be moderate at dinner. Well, good luck with that
Yeah.
because those meals, if you had a per bite calorie count, it would be really high, let's say. And even if you did, a pretty good job of ordering like, some protein, some veggies, had only 2 glasses of wine, let's say, kind of a thing, you're still going to end up blowing past where you would want to be, especially if you didn't eat anything earlier in the day. So, what I like to have people do is take a look at the satiety formula, eat the real breakfast because what you eat for breakfast has a huge influence of how hungry you are at 4 in the afternoon. So eat the breakfast, eat the lunch, have a snack that is, that same balance of things where it's protein, it's some carbs, and it's some colorful veggies because then you're turning up the volume on your own satiety and that gives you natural discipline. Like when you're full and you arrive at the restaurant, uh, and let's say I'll just use the parallel example of someone taking a GLP-1 medication, which is much more powerful, as we've said. But if you're taking a GLP-1 and you're not hungry, you're not going to overeat at the restaurant. So let's back it up to the person who's just using food to create satiety. If you show up at a restaurant and you're not starving, you are going to have discipline that you wouldn't have otherwise. You're going to be able to make better decisions. And then you're going to have the knowledge. Okay, well, I'm going to have a pretty high fat meal, right? I'm going to do steak, I'm going to do roasted veggies. Then in that case, I tell women, you can probably back off on the carbs in that meal. I'm not saying be keto and low carb and, go eat like a stick of butter for dinner. But when you're doing a good job most of the meals, most of the days, when you get to a restaurant, if you still enjoy it, maybe skip the carbs because a lot of them aren't that great. It's like you can have rice at home. Is that special thing about this restaurant? Um, Fries, sometimes they're amazing. They're like my favorite food. But if they're marginal, I am not going to eat crappy fries. Like that's not going to be my thing. I'm going to focus on having, a great burger. And I'm gluten free buns. are bad. And so if I get a burger, I just get a really great burger. I probably get cheese on it. I get an amazing salad. I eat those two things together, skip the fries or just have a couple. And I love that meal. It's special. It's much richer and kind of more fun than anything I would make for myself at home. And it's going to work. And so that's the way you can kind of strategize. Um, and that means nuance. That means that calories matter, but we don't have to completely obsess over them and count points and, try to estimate, the calories in, whatever, a plate of pasta at bar la grassa, which would be impossible and also might really freak you out. And so you
Right.
just have to, right, have knowledge. And so when I do have people track, but I have them track in order to create and plan. So I have them track ahead of time. So like you're about to eat breakfast, use an app to create a meal that's going to fit the formula. And the app can help you do that because it's just a database full of, you know, tons of food and tons of info about food. So
What
does that
apps
make
do you, yeah, it
sense?
does. It's exactly the opposite of what I do because I starve
Right.
myself, build a meal,
I mean,
and
I
then
have to do the same thing. I noticed it like when I was writing more about restaurants in the Twin Cities, and uh, I learned pretty fast. If I show up at a restaurant starving, it is like, game on,
yeah.
and it's not going to work. It works a lot better if I show up and I'm like normal, hungry for dinner. And I make the effort to eat some salad first, eat some veggies first, start with protein, way play down the carbs. And, and if I'm going to have something to drink, I'm probably going to go for a glass of wine versus a cocktail because a cocktail is just going to have so many more calories in it. So, yeah, because
Wh-
calories matter. So it's like, that's the nuance. If you think that calories don't matter, then you're completely losing the script. But if you're completely obsessed with them and you try to restrict yourself down, 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 that's going to backfire and fail too. So we're aiming in that middle place.
I love this about you that you're very moderate in your approach and there's room for error and there's room for, oops, fell off the wagon last night. Like, let me get back
Sure.
started this next morning. What apps do you like for people?
Yeah, I really, whatever one people enjoy using. So I have a lot of clients that used to do Weight Watchers. The Weight Watchers app used to be completely worthless because you couldn't see the macronutrients on it. You couldn't see protein, carbs, and fiber and fat. Um, Now you can, like they've updated the app. So I have, if you are a person who's really comfortable in the Weight Watchers app, then there's no need to switch, to something else. Some people pay for MyFitnessPal. That's fine and great. The free MyFitnessPal isn't so helpful. It's really hard to see what you're doing. I have clients use Carb Manager if they've never used an app before because it's free and it's like so easy to use. The database is fantastic. The caveat with that is you can tell by the name that it's meant for people who are really obsessed with carbs. Maybe they have diabetes, they're doing keto. We don't use it that way. So we have to go in and change the settings to custom and then plug our formula that we map out for people in it. And then they know, they're like, okay, this is how many grams of protein I need to be aiming for in a meal. And the way you figure that out is by putting, okay, I'm thinking about having 2 eggs and a couple of chicken sausages and, some of this Dave's Killer Bread toast and some strawberries. Where does that get me? And then okay, well, that's not quite there. How can I change it? And then we work on changing it so that you really get that satiety with little tweaks.
What does a typical client of yours look like?
Yeah, there kind of isn't one, which I think is so fun. I mean, I've had moms who've bought coaching for their 20-year-old daughters. How fun is that to have a mom who wants their daughter to ignore diet culture and understand? And I love coaching those young women because they catch on so fast, and then all of their friends want to know what they're doing, and all of a sudden they're telling their friends how to do things differently, and they're they're just a health conscious group of people. They're drinking a lot less. They're already kind of working out. They're great about water, and they have their little Stanley cups and they take them everywhere. It's very fun. I have clients who are in their 80s who are, definitely not perimenopausal, but who are really wanting to not become frail and who do not want to lose their independence and their mobility. And that is really fun because talk about a generational shift in how to eat, just very, very different. And then the majority are probably somewhere between the age of, 40 and 65, mostly women who are experiencing perimenopausal symptoms or menopause and starting to gain weight, feel like they don't know why, and really want to like stop. So that's the majority. And then I've got, women who I've probably got, I don't know, 6 clients right now who are taking Ozempic. And they want to make sure that they're really covering their bases with nutrition because Ozempic is a pretty miraculous medication, but you can also screw it up. I mean, if you just don't eat, then you're going to create a mess. And so all of the ways that I talk about eating like that satiety formula absolutely applies to Ozempic. You have to make sure you're eating enough protein. You have to make sure you're eating fiber. You have to get that. You have to work to get the nutrition in when you're not that hungry. So, yeah.
And when you look at what do you think gets someone to the point where they hire a coach about nutrition?
I love this question. I asked ChatGPT this question the other day. Like I was having the conversation with our friend Tracy Morgan because we were talking about uh, women who are, you know, even if they're getting laid off from a job, they will still go get their hair done. They will still get Botox. They will still, those are essential. What makes, I'd love your feedback on this, frankly.
Mhm.
What makes, because you're an amazing marketer, what makes your health and nutrition feel as essential as like getting your nails done, getting your hair done, and skincare, where you will absolutely, budget however much that is for you and keep it vital. Um, and and I think the answer in terms of people that hire me is that uh, they just realize that their same groove repeated is not working. They've like given it their all. They have decided to join a gym. They have decided to eat more protein, and it isn't getting them where they wanted to. And the promise of doing those things is not showing up, and they realize, okay, I do need a little bit more information than just work out and eat protein.
Kind of we're I feel like we're for sure in recessionary times, but no one has called it that yet.
Oh God, for
Because
sure.
the way
Yes.
that people are spending money is shifting.
Yep.
The way that people are, I mean, food is costing 30% more.
Yep.
So that's part of it.
Yep.
And also what we value. So I guess the answer to that is to see yourself as worth it because
Yeah.
you'll prioritize your kids, you'll
Yes.
prioritize your dog,
Yep.
you'll prioritize basically everything in your life before yourself if you're like
Yes.
most women that I know.
Yep. I think
And
that's absolutely it. And I think there is fear. There's fear of the food being depressing or feeling restrictive. There's fear of, being told to go do super hardcore workouts. There's fear of the loss of, a whole time in your life where you didn't have to care about this stuff and now you have to start. There's a
shame.
lot of fear and grief and shame around all of it.
Mhm.
And all I can say is that it's it's none of those things. Like it is, and then there's also guilt. There is the guilt of
Yeah.
focusing on yourself. That one we are gonna do. We are gonna create a focus on you and your health. Um, Sometimes it brings up some conflict with a partner. If you've got a partner who likes to eat a certain way and all of a sudden you're wanting to make some shifts, that can be in the mix. There's We have
Yeah.
very deep conversations about the fact, I've got some women who have had a terrible relationship, not a terrible relationship with their mom, but a terrible conversation, a lifetime conversation with their mom about their weight. A
Yeah.
mom who's critical of their weight and critical of what they're eating, and they just don't even want to open Pandora's box because they don't want to look inside and see the grief there. And so I understand all of those reasons. But
It's
that's why I try to make it really fun and very doable. I mean, the formula piece really kind of came out of me just constantly challenging myself. What can I offer that can tell you exactly what to do?
yeah. And I
And then how
love
you do it is up to you.
I feel like a book is coming for you too. I don't know if you're thinking about it, but I'd love to see like the plates and the size of portions and like really taking this formula to the next level. Of course, I'm always thinking about books because that's what I do, but
Yeah, well, I've
I
done a couple of those. I'm not super dying to write a book, I gotta
I
say.
know it's so hard. Stephanie, if people want to hire you as a nutritional coach, how do they do that? Because I know a lot of people are going to listen to this podcast and want more information.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. Thank you for having me. I miss you. This is really fun
Same.
and laugh and it's awesome. So I would say, I mean, a couple different ways. One, I am Stephanie.a.meyer on Instagram, and that's a great way to reach out to me. And I post these meals that we're talking about almost every day to help people. My Substack is the Project Vibrancy newsletter. You can definitely reach me there. And then my blog, Fresh Tarts, you can reach me there. So I'm pretty easy to find, actually. I'm kind of all over the place. But yeah, send me a note through Instagram or reach out through Substack, I would say are the two best ways. Plus, you can see a lot of how I think and talk about food and share recipes, and all of that is happening in both of those places. So
And one last question, because we
yeah,
talked about budgeting and that people don't prioritize themselves.
yeah,
Is there, if someone was going to budget for you in their
yeah,
life to make some substantial changes, are like, is there a weekly or a monthly just sort of cost that
sure.
people can plan for so they can put the emphasis back on themselves?
Right. So in a few different ways. I mean, if someone is really wanting to make a shift and they've been failing, I really just recommend coaching with me because everything is included with that. I include my course, which is where we learn about menopause and perimenopause and what that means for nutrition. I include the Project Vibrancy meal plans, all sorts of other recipes, everything else. And then we meet and talk about where you are, your age, your activity level, whatever. And it's very affordable. It's like $100 an hour, but I include all the other things and I do 4 sessions. If
So think
someone,
about that. Because,
I
like,
know,
my
I,
gym membership is $225 a
I
month, so
know.
I can play pickleball 8 times a month.
I mean, that is exactly it. It's like, and I have several clients who continue on with me. You don't have to, but because we develop this relationship and I hold people accountable, and then that can go on. I do meal plans. If people just want meal plans, that can happen, and that's a monthly fee of like $25, and it's just
Yeah,
an
cheap.
membership. So cheap and save so much money. That's the really fun thing about the meal planning, especially with grocery costs, is that we I forget what percentage of American food ends up in the trash. It's a third, and it's probably true for a lot of people's refrigerators too. And so when you meal plan, that is a great thing. You really do less takeout, and you throw away a lot less
I
food.
love it.
So those things are possible. So yeah, I've got different ways. And then, of course, I suggest for a lot of people two other things. One, uh, a lot of health plans cover nutrition coaching. And so I generate a receipt for people, you get reimbursed, and that is free then,
Yep.
free. Obviously not free, but you know what I mean. And then uh, if you use, PayPal, Shop Pay, I've got a lot of people who pay in installments, and then you just, spread the fee out over a
Yep.
couple of months too. So anyway, it's all of those things. And I love the question about where do you prioritize the cost of your health?
Hmm.
Not just on the healthcare side where things are going wrong, but on the prevention side.
Where it's
And
going right.
right? And that's just a question we can leave people with to ponder.
Okay, I love it. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm gonna put this podcast up. I'm gonna present it on Friday. I'm gonna release it. I'm gonna put the show notes in
Beautiful.
and just keep on keeping on. I just was
Oh,
moved by what you wrote and it was so clear and it just really struck home with me. And I thought people need to hear this message. So thanks for joining me today.
thank you so much.
All
I
right,
love
we'll
it.
talk soon. Okay,
Okay,
bye
thanks,
bye.
Sue.